Have you ever felt shame for yourself? When was the first time? Do you remember? Well, on today's show, I am going to unpack my TEDx talk that I did not too long ago. And I talked about shame and I talked about where it came from for me, but how I overcame body shaming that I was doing to myself. So stick around if you or someone you know or someone you love has struggled with body shaming. We're going to dive into that. Don't go anywhere. This is the Unleash Your Audacious Confidence Show. Welcome to Unleash Your Audacious Confidence on Win-Win Women TV. This show is all about sharing the tips, tools, and techniques that will allow you to step boldly in the direction of your dreams despite your feelings, fears, or past failures, to imagine what's possible for yourself and live the life you deserve. Well, hello, and welcome to this episode of Unleash Your Audacious Confidence here on Win-Win Women TV. I'm your host, Alicia Couri, and on today's show, we are going to dive into my TEDx. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. But before I get into that, I just want to welcome everybody to this show. This is the Win-Win Women platform. If you haven't been here around before, I invite you to check it out. Go to winwinwomen.com. There are so many show hosts that have remarkable shows that are just curated for you, for women, by women all over the world. And they have local events too. So no matter where you are in the globe, there could be an event just for you. So go check it out. And if you want to connect with me, go to alicia360.com and connect with me. You can WhatsApp me. You can send me an email. You can connect with me on social media. You can visit my websites that are listed there, all the things, right? So go to alicia360.com and check that out. Now, I am going to be kind of experimenting a little bit with my screen. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to dive into my TEDx. And there are some things that I didn't get to share on stage during that event because, you know, we only have so much time. So I'm going to play some little clips, going to share my screen, play a few clips, then come back and talk a little bit about it. All right. So here we go. Let's see if this works. Shame. We've all felt it, haven't we? We felt shame for our bodies because someone shamed us or made us feel uncomfortable in our bodies. I remember being 9 years old feeling that shame when my sister Lizelle and her friend terrorized me. Actually, I felt shame long before I was 9 years old. I felt shame for myself. At least that feeling of being not just uncomfortable with yourself in your own skin, but also just not wanting to be seen by anyone, not wanting to be noticed. And that started actually at 5 because my family, I'm originally from the island of Trinidad and Tobago, and my family moved to Australia when I was just 4.5 years old. And before we moved, my mother had kind of chopped off all my hair. So I was like a little boy. I had like really short hair. And I had a nickname, a bald head, because she had shaved it all off. And then I started school at 5, and nobody in the school in my class looked like me. And I was tiny, I was short, and I had a different accent, and my nose was broad, my lips were big, you know, my skin was dark. And so there was a lot of attention, curiosity, questions that I had to field as a 5-year-old that I didn't know how to answer a lot of those things. And so I felt ashamed of myself because I didn't look like everybody else around me, especially when they would tease me and call me names. And there was a song by Randy Newman called Short People, if you've never heard it before. The lyric says, short people got no reason to live. So most days I heard that, in my ear, short people got no reason to live. And I remember going to my teacher one day. I think I was probably about between 6 and 7. I was crying to her that they were bullying me and calling me all kinds of names. And she told me, sticks and stones may break your bones, but words can never hurt you. And that was my new mantra. Sticks and stones may break your bones, but words can never hurt you. Oh, but they do. They do hurt. And not only do they hurt, they create trauma inside of you that changes who you are. It changes your subconscious belief about yourself for decades if you don't recognize it. So that little saying, sticks and stones, well, that wasn't really true. And the words that they threw at me still hurt, but I would do my little sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Your words will never hurt me. But they did hurt. So anyway, just wanted to cut in there and chime in and just ask, when was the first time you felt or can recall in your life that feeling of difference or that feeling of shame for yourself or for your body? Let's continue. And I'm going to share my screen I'm going to try to split screen it. Oh, maybe I could do this one. There we go. I'll do this one. And let's keep going.
They were 11, and their breasts began to bloom. They teased me. You're nothing but a pirate's dream. Pirate's dream, pirate's dream. Do you want to know why they call me a pirate's dream? Because I had a sunken chest. Arr. They did it to get a rise out of me, and it worked. I would get so mad, and they laughed and laughed. But in those moments, I felt like something was wrong with me.
Yep, that's it. You feel like something is wrong with you when people laugh at you and when they tease you like that. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because the first part of this, I wanted you to just kind of recognize when was the first time you felt body shamed, or when was the first time you yourself felt inadequate. If you could trace that back to yourself. I talk about being 9 years old here, but like I said, it happened much earlier for me. I just wanted to share my 9-year-old experience because throughout my talk, I was talking about my breasts. So I wanted to share that. So one of the questions I did ask was, let me see, here we go. One of the questions I asked during my talk was about comparison. Theodore Roosevelt says that comparison is the thief of joy. But in reality, our brains are wired to compare. It's wired for us to compare things, compare us to others, just compare everything around us. That's how we start gathering information and build our perception, is through comparison. So let me talk a little bit about how my cousin and I, how we compared ourselves.
Cousin Jillian and I hatched this brilliant plan to take wads of toilet paper, stuff them in our shirts. Those fake boobs gave us confidence. We walked around with our shoulders back and our chest out. But it came with a risk when we started wearing it out in public, because at any moment, those suspended wads could slip, become lopsided, or completely fall out. How did we become so dissatisfied with our bodies at such a young age? Well, it's because we compared it to something or someone. President Theodore Roosevelt says that comparison is the thief of joy. But are our brains wired to compare? Neuroimaging studies provide evidence that the brain is indeed wired for social comparison, especially when processing rewarding information. And we can either have an upward social comparison that encourages us to strive for more, or a downward social comparison that crushes us when we don't believe we can achieve it.
Yes. So if you are thinking that, oh my gosh, I have a downward social comparison, like I compare myself to other people and I don't think I can live up and it just crushes me. So this is the first opportunity I want to challenge you to think about how you're comparing. Like, comparison really works best if you compare apples to apples. So if you compare yourself to yourself, who are you now compared to who you were yesterday? That's the best comparison, and who you see yourself being in the future, versus comparing yourself to someone else that have different experiences, different talents, different things about them that are unique and different than you, and you're comparing their success to your to where you are, and feeling crushed because you don't think you can ever measure up to their success. So when thinking about comparison, really try to measure apples to apples. And don't try to look at someone who has a completely different experience, life experience than you, and then try to compare your situation to theirs, because you can very easily get discouraged. So let's jump ahead a little bit. Yeah, I had some body image issues. So I want to talk a little bit about really having developed breasts in my life. It really created some body image issues for me. And I'm going to stop share just for a second, just so I can look straight into the camera and talk to you about this, because when I developed rather quickly. And I went from basically nothing to, within a year or less, to D cup. So if you know anything about bras, there's A, B, C, and then D cups, and then double D, triple D, E, F, G, H, I, J. You know, all those didn't exist when I was growing up. We just went to triple Ds. And pretty soon I was D. And then in my early 20s, I went from D to double D to triple D. And because I have a tiny frame, I was always 98 pounds. I couldn't find the band. I was a 31 band, and they only made bras that were like C cup, D cup, double D, triple D, that were 34. So things wouldn't fit me properly. And I was always frustrated because I couldn't find a bra that could fit me. They were either, if they were in a 32, that was the best size I had. If they were in a 32, they would probably be A, B, or C. And so, you know, I was challenged a lot, going shopping, finding bras, and it was very frustrating. And so I always had this love-hate relationship with my body, because I could never find things that fit me. And then I would get unwanted attention because I was tiny and my boobs were a little bit bigger. And so I would always get these unwanted attention from men, especially as a young girl, teenager, young woman. And, you know, it was tough. It was hard. So, and I know there are women out there that can relate, that have ample bosom, that can relate to being, you know, ogled and feeling uncomfortable and just feeling really, really uncomfortable in your own skin. That's the best way I can say it. I used to walk around with big baggy shirts and kind of, you know, push my shoulders forward so that I could hide myself. And that's kind of how I lived most of my life. And so I avoided the beach because there was an incident, and I talk about it in the TEDx, so you got to go watch the whole thing. There was an incident at the beach that caused me to not ever want to wear a bikini again. And I think it was close to when I was turning 50. I was 49 in 2019. I was 49, getting ready for my 50th birthday in 2019. And I started to think about how much I didn't like my body for so long in my life. And there were all kinds of other things that now I could focus on, not just my breasts. There were all kinds of other things. I had 3 children. I didn't feel like I had, um, you know, there was cellulite and other things. So there was a lot of things that I felt like I could complain about, but I really shouldn't be complaining about, because if I was really measuring myself correctly, I wouldn't be complaining. But I remember my sister and my cousin were coming to celebrate my birthday with me on a cruise. And for a few weeks before the cruise, I started feeling these masses. Like, I've always had dense breasts. I've always had cystic breasts. So I know what a cyst feels like. But there was a proliferation of cysts. There were like, I was feeling them everywhere, and to the point that I could see them through my skin, like they were sticking out. And so I was bikini shopping because I decided, you know what? Um, I'm not going to continue to be embarrassed and ashamed of my body. I am going to make a decision that I'm not going to hate my body anymore. And I am going to start living like I love my body and doing the things that I need to do to show that I love my body. So I thought, okay, I'm going to wear a bikini. As much as I cringed at the thought of wearing a bikini, I'm going to buy a bikini and I'm going to wear it. My stomach isn't tight and six-pack flat as it's been most of my life. My thighs are a little bit jigglier than they used to be, but I'm going to love my body. I'm going to wear a bikini. And while I was shopping for that bikini, I kept feeling these lumps. And I said, you know what? When I come back from this cruise, I'm going to have to take care of that. And I went to the doctor. Turnover. It's incredibly expensive for any organization, but especially those that are small and mid-size. If you're an organization and you're hiring, it's so important to get it right. You need to identify the right people for the right roles. Here at Audacious Concepts, Inc., we help you perfect your hiring process so you get it right every single time. Reach out to us at audaciousconceptsinc.com. And she said, my gynecologist said, they are cysts, that they feel like cysts. She ordered the MRI for me, not the MRI, sorry, mammogram and ultrasound. I did the mammogram and ultrasound. The radiologist says, yes, they're cysts. We need to drain them because they're getting quite big. So we made the appointment, had them drained. And it was I didn't have medical insurance, so I had to pay out of pocket. So it was quite pricey to do the cysts. They were charging per cyst to be drained, per cyst. And I had 8 of them. So I had to pay for 8 cysts to be drained. Now, while I was on the table, and I think this played into some of my mindset while she was draining them, because earlier that day I had felt something else in my breast. And I didn't say anything because I knew I was paying per cyst. And if I had talked about something else, they would probably charge me for something else. So I didn't really say anything about it because it was a really tiny, it felt like a little piece of coarse sea salt, like Himalayan sea salt. So I didn't say much. And while I was laying on the table, though, they did the procedure. I didn't say anything to the radiologist as she was draining them. We did a mammogram after. I didn't say anything. We did an ultrasound after. I didn't say anything. And then when she was finished with the ultrasound, I said, you know what? I'm feeling something else up in here. Can you check? And she did the ultrasound. She went up there and she's like, oh, okay, let me get the radiologist. And then they wanted to have that biopsied. So that became a different journey for me. Now, having these breasts that were an annoyance for me most of my life facing now possibly having to lose them because that little tiny little seed thing that I felt was actually malignant, and it was diagnosed as breast cancer. So I want to go back just for a second in the story, because there's a story in between there, between me feeling the lumps, having them drained before I went for the MRI and before I went for the biopsy, which again, all had to be paid out of pocket. So yay. But in 2019, I entered a pageant for the very first time in my life. I had never done a pageant before. I never thought I was pretty enough to be in a pageant. I was always very short. So pageant life just was off the table for me. But I kept getting invited to do this particular pageant for Women of Achievement. And I decided to do it. And I went ahead and I did the pageant. And I remember I bought this dress that was very low cut, and I was so self-conscious of wearing it because it was low cut. And I had already made the decision I was going to love my body and I was not going to hate my breasts. And this is before my diagnosis. And so I'm wearing the dress and finally feeling comfortable wearing the dress. I had felt so uncomfortable up to the point that I had to wear it in competition, that I finally put it on that night of competition and I felt comfortable in it. I kind of kept making myself feel more and more comfortable in it. And I'm going to show you a picture of the dress, because what happened after that was very interesting. I posted a picture of it on LinkedIn of me in the dress. So this is the dress. I posted this picture on LinkedIn. And then I also posted this picture. This was after the competition was over. I was getting ready we were getting ready to go back and wait for the winners to be called. So we were doing the step and repeat stuff. We were just, competition was over. We were all relaxed. And I was just I took a selfie and I posted it on LinkedIn. So I got a call from someone. It's a guy that I knew, a friend of mine. We go to church. We used to go to church together. He left the state, was living somewhere else. He saw my LinkedIn post and he called me and he told me to take it down. He said, "You're a Christian woman, you're a wife, you're married, you have children. You are too exposed and you need to take that down and take it down now." So I said to him, I said, "Honestly, you don't know what the Lord is doing for me right now in how I am learning to love myself. So while I appreciate the concern, because he was like, what is your husband going to think? How could he let you wear that dress?" And he was going on and on and on. And I said, "I appreciate your concern, but this here is about me and me loving myself. And how do I love myself?" And I think that was the first time I really stood up for myself with someone, because I had always felt so self-conscious that if anyone had told me anything about that, I would have immediately removed it and felt shame for even wearing it. But because I had made a decision to love who I was and love myself, I was not going to allow someone else to put their judgment on me for me to feel shame. And so I tell that story because it didn't make it into the TED Talk, but there are people who will judge you and try to shame you. Because he said he doesn't even let his wife wear red lipstick. Well, he couldn't be in my house because I rock the red lipstick all of the time. But, I made the decision that I was not going to feel shame for my body, myself. And that happened just months before I was given the option. It wasn't even an option. The surgeon literally said that she was going to give me a left breast mastectomy. That same breast, by the way, that's showing in that picture, my left breast that's showing in that picture, that I was about to lose it, like completely. And so being faced with losing my breasts, having now found the opportunity to love them, to love the body, love every part of my body, that when I was praying about whether or not to go through with the mastectomy, my spirit rose up and said, no, 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 no. And that's when I started looking for alternatives for my health and my wellness. And if you're following me, on social media, if you follow me on YouTube or any of my, like, go to alicia360.com and follow me, because my health coach that actually helped me through my entire breast cancer journey to now, and I made the decision that I was not going to be on any drugs. I was not going to take radiation. I was not going to do a lot of the things that they were prescribing for me, because I was going to focus on building my health. So she is launching a new program, and I'll be sharing a lot of that on my social channels for you guys. She'll have some free masterclasses, because what she's talking about is women's health, and especially after 40, what happens to your body after 40, and how you can really supplement yourself with nutrition and proper exercise and the right information, because they are science geeks about women's health, she and her husband. So she knows about hormones. She's done a lot of research into hormones. They actually give you a DNA test, so they know your DNA from a cellular level, your nutrition, and gives you a prescribed program for your DNA. So connect with me so you can learn more about that. But I want to just finish this story, because I made the decision. I made the decision not to remove my breasts. I found an oncoplastic surgeon here in South Florida. She was an hour away from where I lived, but I was willing to drive to her because she listened to me. She listened to the things that I wanted and what I didn't want. And she helped me make a decision for surgery. And yes, I did end up having surgery. We reconstructed my breasts, took out the cancer. I'm cancer-free. It's been 2 years now. We did the reconstruction so that using my own tissue, because I had enough breast tissue that I didn't have to use any kind of prosthetic. So I made a really difficult decision, and there's a lot more to that story, because of the nutritional path that I took. I gave myself more time to make that decision. Now, not everybody has that. Some people get breast cancer and it's aggressive. Mine was not aggressive. So I want you to hear me on that. Mine was not aggressive. So I was able to tackle it with nutrition. I was able to tackle it with other things. There was an aggressive component to it, but um, there were two different types of cancer in the cells, in the tumors that they found. And there was an aggressive component to it, but it was still kind of dormant. It hadn't like proliferated yet. So I felt like I had a little bit of time to weigh my options. So I wanted to tell you this, that be your best advocate. Remember I said comparison before? Weigh, when you're comparing, weigh the decisions that you're making towards better health for yourself. Do research. I was led to people that helped me understand things about estrogen that was not the norm, that everybody seems to think estrogen is just bad after a certain age. It's not. And help me understand my metabolism, help me understand what actually happens in your liver with inflammation if your liver isn't processing your hormones correctly and it's pushing it back into your body. Could be toxic the way it's pushing it back into your body. So there are things that I didn't know, and things that I was doing, things that I was eating, the way I was exercising, that was actually creating more harm in my body than good. And I had to educate myself on those things so that I could make better decisions for my health. And so those are some of the things I couldn't really share in a 15-minute TED talk, but I wanted to bring some of that information to you and share some a little bit more personal things that you might be challenged with or struggling with, or just to give you some more perspective when you hear my talk. And I encourage you to go to the talk. We'll have the link to the TEDx in the description of this show on Win Win Women and when we launch it on YouTube. So with that, I have to close out. We're over time, but I just want to encourage you to be bold, to be brave, especially when it comes to your health, to make decisions about your health, and every day do something to step out with audacious confidence and love the skin that you're in. At the end of my TEDx, I give everybody a charge, and I want you to listen to that TEDx so that you can hear what that is. I'm not going to tell you what it is here. I want you to go listen to it and then do it, and then WhatsApp me, text me, and let me know that you did it. Okay? So this is Alicia Couri. I'll see you on another episode of Unleash Your Audacious Confidence here on Win Win Women TV. Mwah.